Alright, let's try not to delete this one. In our first 4 parts, we discussed Rage Against the Machine's breakout single, Killing in the Name, the Tibetan monk who served as inspiration for their fiery debut album cover, the story of Leonard Peltier and the American Indian movement told in the song Freedom, and the infamous book list found within the liner notes of their sophomore release, Evil Empire. Before we move on to their second LP, there's one more song from their self-titled debut that is particularly relevant to the political climate of 2021, and the life of your narrator specifically. Wake Up is one of the many Rage songs known more for its explosive builds, riffs, and hooks than its lyrical content, used for the end credits of the iconic 1999 film The Matrix. The verse does not start until a full minute into the track, once again showing off the band's underappreciated club music influence. When it finally arrives, frontman Zach De La Rocha's percussive delivery dances nimbly over the track, which is now morphed into 70s porn music? I can't help but make a connection to another 1999 film, American Pie, which features the now classic Bow Chicka Wow Wow instrumental, and is a perfect representation of literally everything Zach is screaming for us to wake up from. Despite the somewhat cheesy beat flip, De La Rocha's words hit like the first few seconds of a street fight. Now, in part 1, I compared Rage's lead vocalist to Rakim, but the more I listen to these songs, the more I hear 2 other obvious influences, Chuck D and Ice Cube. The verse begins with a hardcore nursery rhyme that calls out the American neoliberal establishment who waste the time of the newly radicalized proletariat with their endless questions and criticisms of actual leftist theory and practice. De La Rocha declares that he will pick up the slack and teach the young listener himself, weaving together the many disparate acts of corruption and manipulation that quietly sustain the world around us. Here we also find a snide double entendre, as our mercurial guide traverses the eye of the needle with ease, a feat often suggested to be particularly challenging for those burdened by material wealth. If the first couplet was reminiscent of Cube, this one is all Chuck D, not only in delivery, but content. The Black Panther Party was established by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale on October 15th, 1966. This next line is just... I'm just gonna say after watching this video, Zach might be in your top 10 MCs of all time. E-Double is a reference to Eric Sermon of the group EPMD, an incredibly underrated hip-hop duo who have a number of classic albums under their belt spanning from 1988 to 1999. Plus, they managed to incorporate the word business into every album title, so they've got like a concept discography thing going on. So that's fun. Truly masters of the craft. Their 1990 release, Business as Usual, opens with the song I'm Mad, and its cover features a painting of the two knee-deep in a swamp, surrounded by advancing police. Here, FBI founder and nemesis of the civil rights movement, J. Edgar Hoover, is described as if he were a new product being sold to racist Americans as an easy way to get rid of the ever-so-present problem of cause and effect. As he looks back on the war crimes the American government has committed on its own citizens over the past century, he cannot even begin to express his anger with words alone. However, without a proper outlet, all he can do is write his songs and raise a fist, channeling Jesse Owens and becoming a beacon for the movement while actively participating in its commodification. As much as people like to criticize the band for this, it's a sentiment we are all very familiar with. Alright, full disclosure, I'm 37. About every 10 years or so of my life, I've seen an uprising of increasingly marginalized people, and those that are generally fed up with the overly ambiguous and deceptive social contracts we have all been coerced into. However, in this era of militarized nationalism and the popularization of state-sanctioned LARPing, many would-be countercultural leaders fear both violent retribution from opposition and rabid idol worship from supposed allies. Meanwhile, the violent establishment continues to scoop up angry, young, would-be revolutionaries with tales of rogue billionaires that will free us from the dreaded clutches of liberalism. No, you see, that's not what I meant when I said that I didn't like liberals. Oh, fuck, now we're a Nazi state. And the reason we need strong, uncompromising leadership? Oh, sweet bard of anarchy? Bullet in the Head is a metaphorical tentpole in this album, suggesting that we must either accept the spectacle of desensitized violence inherent in capitalism, or experience it firsthand. Here, Zach offers 2 examples of the metaphor at work. As the IV drip of seemingly inexhaustible cable television sedates the masses, those that seek to protest the system are constantly reminded of the last time a civil rights leader decided to change lanes. When we discuss the late Dr. King, it is vitally important to elucidate the details of his life and career as an American revolutionary. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in April 1968, 5 years after the celebrated I Have a Dream speech was recorded. During that span, he shifted his efforts from desegregation and black liberation to the anti-war movement and the development of a poor people's law that would offer guaranteed basic income to all citizens in need. UBI was introduced in the 1960s, like before you could just endlessly print money like we do now. UBI was an economic reality. Just let that sink in. Building a self-proclaimed multiracial army of the poor, MLK sought nothing less than the complete shutdown and reconstruction of society, to be paid for completely by the manipulative corporate entities that have schemed the world out of our environment and free time, while creating a system that allows them to hoard profits, taxpayer dollars, and government funds in plain sight for everyone to gawk at. So, the FBI shot him in the face. After the verse, we have a great example of why Rage's demo tapes have the statement, "No samples, keyboards, or synthesizers used in the making of this recording," emblazoned on the back. Also, how badass is this cassette, complete with unused matchstick taped to the cover? 5,000 of these were sold at local shows around Los Angeles. Here's one you can get on eBay for a mere $550 American dollars. The combination of Brad Wilk's overdriven wah-wah bass and Tom Morello's distorted airplane flange guitar creates a sonic palette that is not dissimilar to the full-frequency onslaught of modern dubstep, complete with catchy harmonic flair to fill out the measure. I'm going to keep saying it. These guys influenced and were influenced by early EDM as much as they were hip-hop, hardcore, rock, and funk. Okay, are you ready for this? No, you aren't. Flip Wilson is commonly known to boomers as TV's first black superstar, and unbeknownst to me until right now, is one of the most important comedians and performers of the 1960s and 70s. Inspiring the likes of Richard Pryor, Red Fox, and George Carlin, Wilson would find mainstream success with a routine titled Columbus, off his 1967 album Cowboys and Colored People. In this bit, Wilson flips the tale of early American colonialism into a surrealist, non-linear farce that reveals the conqueror of the New World as the narcissistic, culturally appropriating dunce he really was. A true pioneer in the technique of injecting subversive political commentary into art that was accessible to the white majority, Wilson once again blew the doors off convention when he appeared in drag on the cover of his 1970 album, The Devil Made Me Buy This Dress. This introduced suburban whites to the concept of strong, independent black American women, of course through appropriation, the only language white people understand, while also shedding a crude light on what it takes for black men to be successful in America. The frustration is palpable as Zach pleads with the audience to pay attention. Sacrificing his morals to the petty whims of the mainstream, he understands the subtle, ongoing battle of art and commerce. This also suggests to me that Zach knew Tom Morello intended to write loud but ultimately catchy pop tunes, and that was exactly what was needed to get these deeply revolutionary concepts in front of the general public.
These days, man, look out, and I see what's going on in my life, and I see what's going on in other people's lives, and I wonder why I feel so fucking oppressed sometimes. And it's my belief that it's a system that is constantly judging me, trying to tell me how to fucking live, and how to speak, and how to act, and how to think. And it's trying to fucking repress me and oppress me more and more. Well, I'm not gonna fucking surrender my spirit and my life to a fucking society that's gonna do that. It's all gone now. Here we go. Surrender. This blood still flows in the gutter. I'm not taking photos. This one goes up on the shutter.
Here, the MC displays a poetic couplet that forces the image of blood-stained streets to be imprinted onto the minds of the youth like a photograph. Man, I love these lines. I feel like Set the Groove refers to the previous bars, as Zach's words are in perfect unison with the instrumental melody. The haymaker of the band's overwhelming musical assault now delivered, he's able to deviate from the pattern, and begins to stick and move like Cassius, a reference to the birth name of famed boxer and American political prisoner, Muhammad Ali. Rep the stutter step is self-referential, as he cuts short the word represent to create a new internal rhyme scheme. the listener now entranced by this dazzling display, De La Rocha can now drop the bomb of leftist ideology, with the fascist record execs and radio programmers none the wiser. Okay, is it really De La Rocha? That just sounds weird to me. Some non-white person please confirm. As a person who grew up listening to this band in the 90s, I will once again confirm that none of their political ideology was mentioned to me or anyone I knew with any type of nuance. It was anger is a gift, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, and now here's Korn. Next up, Total Request Live.
And I'm joined now by the one and only Britney Spears.
Yeah, never look better, I call screams on a tape, put it to an end.
Here, our narrator reiterates the corrupt tactics of the federal officials who created and implemented the infamous COINTELPRO raids and disinformation campaigns that targeted the civil rights movement from 1956 to unknown. Oh, for the love of... Also, just as a side note, this is the second paragraph on the Wikipedia entry on COINTELPRO, which cites 3 different sources. Trump supporters are storming the White House as I write this. I'm sorry, what? Okay, so I know this is not a reference to the year 2020, but with the overwhelming amount of murals created in the wake of racist murders in America in the past 12 months, it seems oddly synchronistic. Our endless mourning through art and impassioned yet polite conversation is unfortunately not confronting, educating, or healing the ideologies and behaviors that are literally eating our society alive. COINTELPRO stands for Counterintelligence Program, and capitalizing on events like the ideological split between Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam was its specialty. When what many believe to be federal agents murdered Malcolm in cold blood, it was easy to pass the buck to the black nationalist religious organization he was feuding with. Similar tactics were used to stoke infighting between the leaders of the Black Panthers a decade later, leading to their formal disbanding. Today, Black Lives Matter and other revolutionary movements continue to be misrepresented, criticized, co-opted, and attacked by supposed allies. As easy as it is for white people to engage in class reductionism, thus ignoring the nuance of race, gender, and the many other considerations that inform revolutionary action, it's important to recognize how both MLK and Malcolm X were able to illuminate and uplift the black experience in America, while also going through their own evolution of class consciousness. By the 1960s, the establishment acquiesced to desegregation, something I think they understood to be long overdue. But anything more than that was considered a selfish reach, and to many in power, an act of war. But colonialism, slavery, and genocide, the likes of which the world has never seen, not an act of war, though. Funny how that works. And so now, nobody has done anything about these assholes for like 50 years. And we have drunk science deniers who only speak in dog whistles actively trying to retcon the movie Idiocracy into a documentary. Following the second verse, we get a 2-minute instrumental section that really reminds me of Tool, which is interesting because Tool is featured on the previous song, Know Your Enemy. I really wanted to talk about that one, as it's just a fantastic collab, but lyrically, it's just kind of a lot of revolutionary bravado about getting back at the establishment for their bullshit. Still a great track, though. As the track breaks through to the bridge, the tone shifts, and a barely audible and heavily EQ'd Zach returns, now reading from the actual notepad of J. Edgar Hoover himself. He may be a brave contender for this position, but should he abandon his supposed obedience to the white liberal doctrine of nonviolence and embrace black nationalism, through counterintelligence, it should be possible to pinpoint potential troublemakers and neutralize them. At this point in the song, Zach just starts screaming, and with pretty good reason. I mean, come on, the white liberal doctrine of nonviolence? Hoover died in 1972. Everyone with any understanding of reality on both sides of this war has known exactly what the fuck is going on long before any of us have been alive. After some much-needed mosh pit fodder, we get these closing lines.
How long? Not long! 'Cause what you reap is what you sow!
After some much-needed mosh pit fodder, we get these closing lines. This is a statement we can all just bask in at this point. The revolution is here. How have you spent your time? Relying on the traditions that served you, yet hurt so many? Working to steer a sinking ship into clearer waters, just so we can pollute them too? Or have you spent your days educating yourself passionately, loving uncompromisingly, and contemplating a better world, while confronting the people and systems that refuse to allow us the right to create our vision? So, what's your answer? Time's up. Good night, and good luck.